Okay, so welcome back. So we are continuing discussion for the month of May for Mental Health Awareness Month. So this is a continuation of part one. So if you haven't seen part one, please go check the other videos. I'm going to put like a little thing at the end so you can follow up on part one. So once again, my name is Anna K. Rule and I am a registered nurse. So thank you for joining me. And as I said before, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. We're going to try to learn some things together and see how best we can help ourselves and those around us to just be our optimal health, whether it be physical, emotional, mental, the best self that we can be. So earlier I did say in part one that I will be reading some facts from the CDC website, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention website. So I will be looking on papers every now and then. I'll expand on the point. So there was actually something I saw, and actually a really good friend of mine and one of my colleagues brought up that on the CDC website there is a mental health test. So this is basically where they ask you several questions, and then from those questions you basically answer. It's a quiz, like a quiz of 10 questions. So what I did, I pulled some information from this quiz and we're going to talk more about it. So one of the things that it says, mental health, it's very common. And I know that many people listen to my video, not necessarily in America, but the data did provide data for America. So we're just going to use that as the baseline and see how it probably could be applicable in other countries too. But it says 1 in 5 American adults and 1 in 5 children will experience a mental illness at some points in their lives. So I have the thing in front of me. That's why you probably see me looking over there. So 1 in 5. So I don't know how your whole situation is. Just think about if you're living in a family of 5 or maybe a family of 3. Just add 2 more, your neighbors. And there, 1 of that 5 adults is likely to experience mental illness. 1 in 5 children. Now we're talking about people under 18, children. If you come from a large family, or so you don't have to look far. You're thinking about maybe your child or children. You're thinking about your cousins, your niece and nephew. 1 in 5 children experience mental illness at some point in their lives. And this I found very shocking. This one point I actually found it very, very shocking. I was like, what? So it says, suicide is the 2nd leading cause of death among people ages 15 to 34 in the United States. I was so surprised. I mean, I know, heart attack, stroke, those things, kill people. I mean, everything at some point, based on how your body reacts to it, can cause death to the body. So, but when I heard the 2nd leading cause of death among 15 to 34, and I thought 15, I said, oh my. And suicide is something where you may never know the person is suicidal. And it's a little bit personal for me because I do have a really good friend of mine. Well, I did have a really good friend of mine. And we were about 19, going to 20, and she committed suicide. And I haven't gone over it, to be honest. And it really affected me initially because I was thinking to myself, this is someone who I thought, to me is a really good friend to me. Like, she even said that we're good friends. And I'm like, I was 19, yes, but I'm like, should I have known? How could I have known? Also could it have been me? Like, what made her feel as though she needed to no longer be with us here? And I may never understand her reason. I may never understand why. And then at the time too, I didn't know much about mental health or anything like that. I didn't know a lot that I know now. So also too, at that time, I didn't know what to look for or pick up for at that time. So I said in the first video, not knowing is a big part of underdiagnosing and also misdiagnosing. But it did affect me a lot. And the thing about it too is that for suicide, the person who commits the suicide, leaves back loved ones, which they may not believe they have, but sometimes they do know they have them, these loved ones. But it's also it's misunderstood, like it's not properly understood. I would say misunderstood. It's not properly understood, and also we can never know what could cause a person to commit suicide. So it's one of those things where even if they leave a suicide note, sometimes they may say on the suicide note. And one of the things is that as their loved ones, the ones who are left behind now to face this loss and to deal with loss, it is it is normal probably to think, how could I have known, how could I have prevented this, blame yourself for it, maybe think could have done more, or probably could have done less if you think it contributed to the person feeling overwhelmed or whatever caused him to commit this suicide. And also too, it's also feeling as though, you know, how did I fail that person? Probably failed myself. But as I said, it's one of those things that we can never fully understood. And it's like, if you have that gut feeling about something with someone, you know, it's not always, I say, if you have that gut feeling, it's kind of like, okay, you may confide in someone, you know, you may think that something is of concern, and also to try to, you know, if the person is willing to talk, they'll talk, but if they're not willing to talk, they may not talk. So it's something that is just never fully understood. And also, you know, especially I know the grieving loved ones, is just try not to blame yourself too much for it, you know. So that's something that we just try not to do. And at the age I thought was 15 to 34. So, you know, when it comes to 15, they're still in school, they're trying to figure out themselves and find themselves. They're at a sensitive age where, you know, friends and peer has a lot to do with how they see themselves. So that's a big, big factor as well. And we talk about our young adults, you know, like in their 20s going to 30s. You have, for example, the stages of growth or development. You have isolation versus intimacy. So when you're a young adult and you're looking, okay, do you form relationships which are intimacy, or do you just stay by yourself and decide to be single, or just not want to be in a relationship? So during that stage, there's just so much figuring out. And even at 30, 34, you know, we're thinking, okay, we're approaching closer, like for the women, closer to that biological clock. We're thinking, okay, you know, because once you get to 35 now, it's advanced maternal age. And I had someone who told me the other day that her doctor told us now geriatric age, or geriatric pregnancy. So it's just that for, you know, the young ladies who are thinking, oh my gosh, I'm getting my biological clock is ticking. So that can create some, you know, anxiety and some, you know, poor mental health during that time. So that could contribute as well. But there's so many factors. And as I said before, I mentioned to you all the factors that could contribute to mental illness. So there's no one thing that could cause someone to commit suicide. But I found it alarming. That is the second leading cause of death among 15 to 34-year-olds in America. Another thing is that it's a mental health can be treated. And I totally, totally agree with that. As I said before, the treatments are there. And I said sometimes maybe misdiagnosed or underdiagnosed. But if properly diagnosed, we can really get to a point where we can have this person functioning at their optimal self that they can. Because it's not like some people, depends on what a mental illness is, you know, it can probably, as the CDC website said, can be treated and fully recover. While others will be able to function as a functional adult or teenager or child in society and be able to feel each day that they feel fulfilled each day, you know. And that's something that is possible, you know. That is something that's really, really possible. So one thing is, if you know someone with poor mental health, you can help by reaching out and letting them know that help is available. And that is true. As I said before, help is available. As I said, you may not know the words to say, you know, and sometimes like saying, suck it up, you know, get over it. You may not know the words to say. And the words that you may not know the words to say because, as I said, there's so many factors. You just don't know. Cultural. You know, cultural is a big thing that affects so much, that affects mental illness and how a person express how they're feeling. For certain cultures, you may feel as though I'm not supposed to say I'm not feeling well. You know, I have a job, so I'm not thankful enough because I have a job and I'm still not happy. I have food on my table every day. I drive a nice car, or I live in a nice house and I'm comfortable and all these things, and I should be happy. So why am I not happy? You know, for example, some parents, and it's just so often many times like our parents, is just to be mindful that our words are powerful. Like parents, your words are so powerful, what you say to your children, or even say to those around you. So it's so powerful. So I know sometimes parents may feel like, okay, you know, growing up, they went through so much. And as children, we're all thankful that our parents went through so much. Children are very thankful that their parents went through so much and sacrificed for them. But to say to a child that, you know, when I was growing up, I used to do all these things. I used to walk miles for school. I used to go to school with barefoot, or go to school with one shoes, or I never had certain things. I couldn't go to events at school because my parents couldn't afford it. And then now that child, which you worked very hard and sacrificed, and then your child now has that opportunity, doesn't have to worry about food, can go to all the events, and you can afford nice things and activities for your child. And then your child may not seem as though they're happy or satisfied, and you're thinking, or you're saying to them, like, you know, when I was growing up, I did not have all these things. So what do you have to worry about? Why are you not happy? Just be mindful that there are other things that maybe when you're going to have to face. Social media. As parents, you know, maybe in the 1960s or 70s or even 80s, you didn't have to really face that harsh judgment and that access that people on social media have to you. Just pick up your phone and people can be cyberbullied. There's just so many things that you probably did not have exposure to. So even though the child may not be faced with the adversities of, okay, walking miles for school, or not having certain things at school, not having certain clothes or certain things, they're also dealing with other situations that are unique to their generation. So it's just that if you see something's going on with your child and you may not know how to talk to your child, it's okay to talk to the guidance counselor at the school. Reach out to someone else to try to see how they can help, because you may just not know how to help that child. So those are just things to consider. So this is part 2. So we're like about 10-11 minutes in. So what we're going to do is that we are going to pick up the conversation. As I said, I want to have more of these conversations for me. So we're going to have more conversations as I find different things about mental illness, as I discover more things throughout the month. I'm going to share them with you. And as you discover more things that you probably want to know more about, we'll figure them out together. But let's just do the best that we can. Try not to be so hard on yourself. You know, you are doing great. You know, you're doing a good job. There's always room for improvement, but it doesn't mean that where you are, you're not doing well and you are doing good. So do good to yourself and do good to others, and be well. Take care, and we will talk more soon. Thank you for joining me. Bye-bye.